I'm ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real. I'm feeling so ruthless. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame. Show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up. It's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time. Nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down. It's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise. Don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up.
Hello race fans, Peter Mackay here, welcoming you to the Apex Racing Academy GT4 VRS Super Series. We're here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 2, and we're going around the fickle Roval course here at this amazing venue in the United States. Joining me in the commentary box tonight is Sam Fitzpatrick, and bringing you these wonderful images and graphics is Alex Simpson. Sam, we had a brilliant time out at Montreal a week ago with plenty of drama, and I suspect here at the Charlotte Roval, well, I'm expecting pretty much the same.
think so. They're kind of similar circuits, weirdly. They're kind of both half street circuits. This place similar to Montreal. You have some expansive areas where you've got some runoff, some grass on the outside, but also some real close wall sections as well. And so you can easily ruin your race very quickly. It was a really topsy-turvy meeting that we had last weekend. There was a few drivers who were probably a little bit disappointed that they weren't able to get a few more points up on the board, particularly Sokolowski, who of course was leading race 1, then had the disconnect right on the final lap, then came from the back of the grid in race 2 to come through and win. So in the first race of the season, really has set up a very nice championship for Sokolowski with some points to make up. And it's really unclear who's going to come out on top today as well, judging by these qualifying times.
Absolutely. Sokolowski, who really was, as you said, had really quite a lot of pace in hand at Montreal, but testament to the tightness of this field. He's in 5th overall in this qualifying session right now, with Wangen leading a Porsche 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now. So a good day for Weissach so far. Of course, in this series, the GT4 series, we have 2 different cars to choose from. We have the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, a lovely mid-engined machine, and we also have the big brute, the BMW from Munich, the front-engined twin-turbo straight 6, a wonderful machine that came into iRacing at the start of this season, season that finished yesterday, and I'm sure I'm sure a lot of our viewers are excited about the new cars that we're going to see tomorrow as well. I'm personally very excited indeed to see those.
Yeah, that's probably the best addition I think iRacing in terms of cars have made for a while. The P2, it's been asked for so long has the P2 been asked for. It's been an obvious car for iRacing to get in, especially of course since the DPIs and the LMP2s are very similar. You know, you're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone right there. So that's a very good addition. Of course, the Corvettes as well. A couple of new additions as well. I'm particularly looking forward to the sounds that will be new, where you got the horn when you come into the pits, along with loads of other stuff. You know, the crowd rumble. I think you're going to be able to hear a little bit more. It's designed as well, so if you see an overtake, then the crowd gets a little bit louder. So that'll be really cool. So good work from iRacing to continue boosting this simulator.
I wonder if you get an ooh and an ah when you spin. I wonder. We'll find out. So, running at the top of the field, fastest in qualifying, Thomas Wangen edges out Joel Evans for pole position. They'll start from the front row of the grid. Roger Christensen will roll out alongside Patrick Sokolowski. Will Newell and Philip Johansson will be on row 3. Matthias Beer and Mark Silcock will be on row 4. Row 5 will be Mike Pollard and Mark Heron, the Scotsman, who had the AM-class pole sitter. Jorge Villegas will start from 11th, and Jose Malbran will start from 12th place. 13th will be Jeff Miner with Chris Rea right behind. Pontus Overstrom 15th, Greg Hubler 16th, Mihail Velikov will be 17th, Marco Tolman, the Dutchman, in 18th, Mark Jones 19th, and Mike Van Beek in 20th. And finally, in 21st place, Erin Gibson, the Canadian driver. So, quite an unusual formation here. This is very NASCAR here at Charlotte.
I love this starts. It's very unique. I think it's the only track that we have this. This is a relatively new track since they redid the oval a couple of years ago, and iRacing have made this very cool starting procedure. Of course, we can't really have a standing start around this circuit because unless you have 4 cars, you're going to have to be lining up round the car. Heck, you could probably in the TCRs you could probably reach the NASCAR turn 4, so a rolling start is certainly the way to go. The drivers got to be careful though not to make contact. I've never seen contact being made by drivers in this situation. I've done 2 race meetings, I believe, around the second, maybe even a third, and so far they've never come together. But I am waiting for it because if someone pulls out a little bit too early, then it could be disaster.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Of course, this is what we would see in the NASCAR Cup Series, and of course, don't forget that this circuit, the Charlotte Roval, they've even trademarked the term Roval, so hope we don't get a bill for using it afterwards. but this is the only or the first ever road course to be used in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. So, and in fact, I'm not bitter at all. I was due to be at that particular race, but it's not looking likely at this stage as our Porsche safety car brings our cars around, and it looks like they're going to take a full pace lap.
Yes, that will be the way to go for them. Unfortunately, any Ford Mustang fans, apologies. We don't have the Ford Mustang pace car. You know, tune in for the Apex Racing League GT Championship if you want to see the Ford Mustang pace car. The best pace car, I think, is that is undoubtedly the Porsche doesn't quite live up to that. Just looking at the results from last week for the drivers at the front of the order, Wangen managed to get a third and a fourth. He's only a handful of points off the championship lead at the moment. In fact, the championship, as I tried to get up the standings on the sheets, so we've got Johansson and Christensen joint on 104, then you've got Beer and Wangen on 94 each, and Sokolowski, despite not finishing one of the races, pretty much on 82, not too far back. So it wasn't a fantastic first meeting for Wangen by any means, but he's on pole position here, and Evans, he only managed to get 5th and 17th. He's 10th place in the championship after one round, is Evans. So that was a mighty qualifying for him to put it up there. So a real upset to the order. I really thought that Sokolowski would keep that pace advantage, and that you know, you'd have Johansson and Christensen right up there as well. And they've just been beaten by some faster drivers, it seems, at the start of this meeting.
Yeah, it seems so. Joel Evans was very, very fast at Montreal, but just did not have the luck, got tangled up in a couple of incidents. Not necessarily his fault. So great to see him get it together in qualifying. And we saw this in the ARL GT race on Sunday. Some new names coming to the front, and it is such just a unique layout. Of course, most people who are relatively new to iRacing might recognise this track as one that was used quite regularly for the Mazda MX-5 kind of rookie cup that you go through when you start on iRacing. So I remember it was certainly the first ever race I did on iRacing was on the Charlotte Roval, and great fun it was. And I got a very rude awakening to just how much of a simulator it is. So our drivers are nearly ready. If you're looking at the top left hand of your screen, don't worry, you won't have to listen to us for 99 laps. It's short sprint races in this particular series. That's just our timing screen that likes to do that from time to time. So here we go. We've got the green flag then, and Thomas Wangen gashes it away from Joel Evans and gets away cleanly as they head down towards turn one. A very, very tight left-hander, but the front two guys have got through cleanly, and Sokolowski makes a brilliant start, jumping 2 spots to third.
Yeah, that's a massive start for Sokolowski. Oh, we got a car in the wall just behind. That's Christensen in the wall. Is anyone going to get involved in that behind? It's a very narrow start to this lap. Now it's fortunate that no one did collide Christensen. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up a faster bet and finish the race. Wangen straight away under pressure from Evans, and look at Sokolowski. Started in 5th place, as you say, moved up to 3rd. He's already making visible gains on these top two. So maybe just didn't nail his qualifying, but he's sure very quick in this.
Certainly is. Joel Evans, well, channeling the spirit of his namesake, Elvin Evans, the World Rally Championship rally winner, and he's right in the slipstream of Thomas Wangen. But Thomas Wangen really defending well here. But look at there you go, Sokolowski in 3rd place. He might not have got it quite together in qualifying, but looks like he's brought all that pace through from Montreal, Sam.
Certainly has. They just cut the exit a little bit. They're allowed to go on the apron, or certainly would not be supportive of them going on the apron, but they're keeping on the NASCAR 3 and 4 at the moment. Sokolowski almost within passing range. We're talking to Tom McMahon in the Apex Racing League GT Championship. He was saying just how tricky overtaking around the circuit is, particularly the last chicane. It's really tricky to make that move, as Mark Heron has dropped down. I think Overstrom might have an issue as well, so they've had a collision, it seems, at the final chicane. Will go tumbling down the hill. So a few drivers losing out, but Walgren and Minor are up 4 places each. We've got Velikov and Jones up 7 and 8 places up, respectively.
Yeah, this is quite. If you're wondering what on earth the drivers are doing over there, they're just trying to get that big shallow line in. Oh, car park. Oh dear. Oh dear, 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 dear. But just a few drivers going off there, and oh bang. Oh dear me. That's not so good. But this circuit difficult enough as it is, but really tight there going down into turn one. But back at the front, Patrick Sokolowski, he's just sitting in there calmly. It's a 25-minute race, so plenty time to pick his move. And you're right, Sam, the overtaking here is so tricky, isn't it? It's and I watched the ARL GT race, and Tom McMahon, well, it might be hard to overtake, but it turns out you can always make room in his case.
Yeah, it's a great guy for him eventually to get past Eichenberg and also Daniel Lee, didn't he? Along with how he could drive the order as well in race 2. Yeah, it's certainly not going to be easy. And these GT4 cars perhaps even more tricky to overtake than the GTE cars. So it'll be tricky for these guys. That's going to be contact, surely. I think there was a little bit of contact there. And almost into the wall there for Velikov. He's had an awesome start. Now it's almost going to be 3 wide into turn 1. And picking up some pace there is Pollard. That was fantastic there for Pollard to move through. Very weird turn 1. Some guys lose out there. And still Morben trying to come back against Velikov, and Morben just getting ahead. So Morben now up into 8th place. He was very good in race 1 last week. He's doing the same in this week.
Wow, I tell you what, our resident cinematographer Andy Taylor will be that jump there from Mihail Velikov. That's going to make a spectacular cover shot for the race report tomorrow. Oh my goodness me, that was proper rallycross stuff going over the carbs there. I think he maybe just did get a little help from the BMW, I think, Sam, and that just sent him into orbit over the carbs.
Yeah, lucky not to get a slowdown either around that part of the circuit, otherwise he probably had to let a couple of paces go. Here comes Hubler. Now he is moving up, is the American against Mike Van Beek. That's way wide. There was Van Beek. That will be a slowdown as well. We'll have to slow down. There were some questionable slowdowns the other day. It's not a massive penalty that you have to serve, but I imagine he will leave that place for Hubler, basically.
I think Joel Evans has had a little bit of contact on the rear of his Porsche Cayman GT4, and interestingly Sokolowski's just dropped back a fraction, so I wonder if maybe Sokolowski's done a classic Charlotte Roval run into the back of we could call it the texting while driving a traffic light run into the back. It's just so easy to do. The Charlotte Roval into these chicanes are coming from such high speed, and if there's a car that's just that little bit earlier on the brakes, it's very, very easy to run into the back. And I suspect that's what's happened with Joel Evans, with Sokolowski is starting to drop off the pace, and that's not what we would usually expect.
Yeah, really surprising that. I mean, he had almost a second on the others at times last week. Here comes Evans against Wangen. Outside into the chicane is really tricky. The inside driver often just runs you out of room. That's good there for Wangen. He took a real nice line, and Evans actually dropping way back, and he's got to be careful of Sokolowski here. And that's the danger of trying to go to the outside into that corner. It can really ruin your momentum and your exit to the next couple of corners. The NASCAR 4, Sokolowski with a part of his car alongside. Evans is going to struggle to hold him off here. Going to have to hang it round the outside. There's contact between the two of them, and cutting the course there is Evans. He'll have to slow down to give that pace up, and he'll possibly lose other paces as well to Beer and Johansson and Silcock. Evans will now try to sow all contacts across there, and Beer loses out and hasn't got some damage on him, because that was a big move across from Sokolowski, who does now move ahead of Evans as Evans tries to desperately serve that slowdown.
Yeah, well, that's interesting stuff. Matthias Beer did really well to hold on to that when he got a big hip check there from Sokolowski, and yeah, that would have been busy at the wheel of his car, right, left, right, and hung on to that tank slapper. Well done from the German Austin Powers in the BMW ARC car. Yeah, the interesting one looked to me there, Sam, that Sokolowski had the corner, and Evans just sort of either didn't realise he was there and turned into him, but hard to say. But I actually don't think you could put any blame at Sokolowski there.
I don't think so. In the end, Sokolowski's not the one who's managed to benefit, and he's having to defend from Johansson. Johansson trying to go around the outside. That's a decent move, but he just gets a bit squeezed on the inside. And now, again, if Joe tries to go around the outside, the Bussard loses a bunch of time on the exit, and the whole perception of the battle changes. He's now got Silcock on his rear end. Fortunately for Johansson, that BMW is pushed down the straight, which won't be fantastic around the circuit, but will help him defend as there's more contact, and has to cut the course again, and he serves that slowdown straight away. Again, the slowdown isn't enough, and he might hold into the pace.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating to see how clever you are serving the slowdown penalty. You don't have to serve it immediately, and of course, through this tricky flip-flop here, you can sort of just park it on the apex a little bit, as we saw there, though. Wow, side by side between the two BMWs, the Hell Racers machine of Johansson and Matthias Pierce, psychedelic. Looks like it's a bit Mystery Machine-esque there. It does that BMW, but. We were on the Austin Powers references in the interview room today. Hopefully we get on the podium and we can do some more when he gets to the interview room later. Oh, wheels come off! Wheels come off! Where's that? Whose car's that come off? Is it? Did you see that?
I've not seen that. That could be netcode contacts. We do sometimes see it with this new damage model. Hopefully no wheels have gone off. We did see a driver. Oh, that's going to be a wheel off. That's Wangen from the lead. Wangen from the lead. And it's a complete unforced error. He had a comfortable advantage. Apologies, that was well, I guess that was a replay. Yeah, Wang was miles ahead. And now he's made a complete unforced error. That was an easy race win coming to him. The Team Vikings car really usually maximise their performances. And hard into the wall, he drops down to 6th place now.
Oh, what a disaster for Thomas Wangen, and that is one very second-hand looking Porsche Cayman. In fact, the front styling looks like somebody's put a Mansory body kit on it, and if you've never seen one of those before, just make sure you've not eaten before looking at it. They are the most hideous body kits you could ever fit to a car. Very expensive, of course. But yes, I always think when one car's been crashed, it looks like it's been fitted with a Mansory body kit. Apologies for any Mansory customers listening.
That's iRacing's next update gone.
Oh no, the lasers and the body kit would take a while.
Yeah, they've taken years working on that one, but they're not anymore. So Evans now leads, and it's like last week might get this race win despite not being nearly as dominant as he was last week. But Evans, yeah, the Welsh driver in the lead, and that would really bring us back into championship contention. Wangen, you'd think, will be slow to the end of the race. Just looking at his relative, you can check out the live timing link in the description below. Click on that, provided by SDK Gaming. You can check out the intervals between all the drivers, their last lap times, their best lap times, their pit stop times, which won't be too important in this, but I'm saying that, well, actually race 2 pit stop is mandatory for the drivers, so that is what we're using, so click on the link in the description. But it does seem like Wangen is losing time down the straight and is dropping away from these top 5 drivers.
Yeah, that was a big hit into the wall there, so it's bound to be affecting the performance of his car. Of course, here on iRacing, all of the damage that you'll see on the broadcast here, then the damage to each car, that is simulated, and the resulting performance impact will be simulated as well. So, riding on board with Jose Malbran in the 187 BMW, just going up high. He's going up high, and the Porsche down low there. Is he going to get it done? This is going to be close. Ooh, just about, yes. Well done. Nice. Well done, that man in the BMW. Very impressive move indeed from him. But yeah, what a pity for Thomas Wangen. Thomas Wangen, sorry. That is, yeah, and like you said, an unforced error. Quite unusual, but yeah, a pity.
And it looks like he's made another mistake. He's down to 15th place. He's just dropping down the order as we were watching that replay before. So Wangen's got himself involved in another thing. It wasn't. No, Christiansen came into the pits for a pit stop. Third on the grid, of course, was Christiansen. But Wangen just with a spin, seemingly, I think, right at the end of the last lap. He's down to 15th place. And well, if you're going to go for the championship and you're on pole position, you've got a 3-second lead, you've got to go win the races. The point scoring system we use for the series, 60 points for race win, 52 for second, it's 48 for third. It's quite a steep drop off, and so when you've got an opportunity for a race win, it is really important. You can get away with a couple of DNFs, but when a race win is possible, you really do need it, as Evans still leads, and these top guys just starting to spread out for him.
Yeah, I think it's that Mark Heron going a lap down there, unfortunately involved in that incident earlier on from pole, from AM class pole position. A pity for the Scotsman. But yeah, Joel Evans doing a great job here. Sokolowski set the fastest lap of the whole race that last time around on the 8th lap. But Evans still holding a good lead, but you have to think the next 12 and a half minutes or so are going to be long for Mr. Evans, with Sokolowski charging in the background.
It's going to be a tough run for him. Silcock not making much of an impression on them. These guys are the only guys in the 23s at the moment. By the way, Wagon's now come into the pits. He had so much damage. He's had to come into the pit, so you can see him down in 20th place now. Top 10 gets reversed for race 2. I doubt he's going to get back into the top 10, because at the moment he is about 20 seconds off the top 10, 25 seconds off the top 10, so that's not going to happen. So again, you need to finish in the top 10 in race 1, and that can transform your meeting. We see it with GT, ARL GT, time and time again. The difference between the top amateurs and the top and the midfield amateurs is just if they can get within the reverse grid, because if he starts in first place rather than 11th place for race 2, mistakes will transform the meeting, and those mistakes from Wangen have cost him a chance to do that.
Absolutely. So we're looking at Will Newell now for Team Iridium, trying to hold off Velikov, the accidental rallycrosser, in the yellow and black Porsche Cayman. He's looking up the inside here. Ooh, this is close. Oh, bang! Oh dear, they're both off. They're both off there. Both Porsche Caymans off there. Some of the BMWs go through. That's Marco Tolman. And Mihail Velikov, well, he has been really in the wars in this particular race, and it just seems like all the action's kind of drawn towards him, as the Mike Pollard now moving up to 7th place. Brilliant drive from Hellman. Matthias Beer, well, he's feeling very groovy at the wheel of this BMW M4 right now, up to 4th place. He's climbed 3 places so far, and in with an outside shot at the podium. But Sam, it's interesting with this format, this heat racing format. You know, we saw it in the Apex Racing Academy Formula 3 series, which finished on Saturday. Won very well by Greg Seitz, who was super consistent. But we saw many times drivers who maybe got involved in incidents early on, but just keeping the car moving and not giving up, not getting angry and quitting. It's amazing how you can climb your way back up throughout the night.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, keeping yourself in play in the races can get you a lot of points. You just have a drop down to remember as well for the season, so you can have an absolute awful round. But that resilience is going to be pivotal at the end of the championship, because you want to lead that awful round as long as the championship, as long as you don't want to have an awful round in the first couple of meetings. And that has to be perfect to the end of the season. Greg Hubler in 14th place. I think he was 1 place up before Overstrong, getting past Overstrong with a difficult start. I think he was off the circuit near the start of the race. He was involved in that big clash we had with I think Heron as well, as Beer having to defend hard from Johansson, and that was some good defence there. Again, covered the inside on the entry to the chicane, and he held on, and now in fact actually I've got 12 seconds to Morban. Oh, as what has happened to I think so. It's happened to is that Newell, who's just dropped a place, it seems. But yeah, Beer hanging on to 5th place at the moment from strong attack.
It certainly is. I think that psychedelic dazzle camouflage, maybe that's why I saw a tyre bouncing around, which sent me into a trance. And say yes, Will Newell now battling. He's back with Velikov, and I suspect that tempers will be frayed right now between these two. Of course, anybody you get into an incident with, it's automatically their fault, of course. So I can imagine that both of these guys are particularly peeved by that incident on the previous lap. And interestingly, how they've all of a sudden reconvened. Looking at Marco Tolman, who is your top placed AM class driver in the field right now. If you're wondering what the on our timing screen, the SDK timing screen on the top left-hand side of your screen, the drivers with a green icon beside are a Pro Class driver, and the red icon are AM Class drivers. So Marco very confidently leading the AM Class as it stands. And the way that those classes are decided is an average of the drivers' I ratings are taken and then basically split down the middle, if I'm not mistaken, Sam.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think last season the GT4s we actually did it a little bit differently, where we had some real top drivers. I mean, like pro level drivers who are like 4K plus. which I mean, even some guys 6K cars. So in that occasion, we kind of said, all right, if you're 3K or more, then we set it to that. So we had like 10 go drives, but then because so much of the field was like the same iRacing almost, we just said, yeah, the 30 of you can all be AMs. But this season, much more kind of balanced iRacing. It's quite a constant drop from about 3.5k to about 1.2k, I think is the lowest. And so yeah, we put out about 2,000 iRacing as the split, and Montreal works really well. Remarkably, it doesn't usually work well for round one of the championship. You usually have to make a couple of adjustments, but it was almost perfect last time out, and it's not too bad. Michael Tolman overperforming a little bit right now.
Absolutely, of course, the iRacing iRating system is it's an amazing system that's look, basically, I'm not even going to even try and explain how it's calculated on the broadcast at risk of sending anyone to sleep, but it is a very good indicator of skill. However, it's interesting as everybody, like in the real world in motorsport, there's always people who are specialists in certain types of cars. I mean, for example, my favourite car is the ironically the HPD Acura LMP2 car, which unfortunately, as of tonight, will be retired effectively from competitive action, and I can imagine I'm going to be rubbish in this new Dallara P2, and I'm going to say, oh, can we have the HPD back, please? But it's funny, isn't it? You know, it's or if you go and race in GT3, the field is so deep, there's so many people racing, that even you think you've had a good race, and you think, God, I'm miles away here.
My two cars are the Williams F731 and the Corvette C17, and both of them are being retired this season. So if you feel bad yourself, Peter,
you feel the pain.
Cry some tears for me, because those are my two cars. I also do like the Porsche so I occupy that, but they are secondary. The F31's gone, but Porsche wants a time comparison now. The F4-30, that's the 2015 McLaren Honda car. That would be a nice addition to that, and apparently that car can handle much better than some good improvements on the 3.5, but won't be the same as the 2009 Williams, unfortunately. Morgan under pressure Tolman at the moment. Imagine just going alongside Tolman, moving ahead of Morgan. Tolman about 8 tenths of a second faster that last time round, and he has been able to move up into 6th position. Morgan just trying to come back against him. So pretty good battle there for 6th place. All 4 points for him, but even though they may not be the same class, and they're still alongside. And it's Pollard who's now got ahead of Tolman as well, so Tolman was looking to gain a place, he ends up losing a place.
Yeah, really tight battle here at the front. Just 5 minutes to go, and Joel Evans, I mean, he's doing a great job to keep Sokolowski behind him at a safe distance, 1.4 seconds as it currently stands. So Sokolowski wants the win. He's really going to have to fight for it. Probably, what do you think, Sam, for the super speedway here? There's obviously it's a bit like Daytona. You've got a lot of straight line area where you can get in the draft, but you know, with these cars, how close do you really need to be to start getting the noticeable draft effect?
I'm not quite sure. I haven't done a whole lot of running in these cars, but from my experience, probably like 6 tenths of a second. But even when you're that far back, it's not going to be very strong. I think the more recent iRacing cars have got a smaller toe effect. That the Porsche iRacing Cup car has very little toe effect, and the new supercars as well don't help you out too much either. Maybe the GT3 is a little bit more. So yeah, it's certainly not easy for these drivers, but Pollard will try to use that. You can see Pollard though dropping back. That's the straight line speed of the BMW. We saw it at Mosport last season, where literally it was impossible pretty much for the BMW to be overtaken. You could be a second slower, but not be overtaken. Just pull away down the back straight, but that's not a good exit for Walgren at all, and it's left to be vulnerable. But again, Pollard, you can see in the bottom right corner, the gap's going up. He's caught to a second behind, and the gap is still going up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's but basically this is a miniature version of the IMSA cars in the real world. Of course, BMW M8 GTE is an absolute dragster in a straight line, but in the twisty stuff, the Porsche 911 RSR is absolutely fantastic, and that's effectively what we're seeing here in miniature. The BMW, brilliant in a straight line, opening up that massive twin turbo straight six engine, and the Porsche just a little smaller capacity, naturally aspirated in the middle of the car, and it's much more nimble through the twisty stuff. And you know, that's actually what it makes fantastic racing, actually, in most parts. In fact, the first ever sports car race that was held here at the Charlotte Roval in 1971, a Mini Cooper did exactly that, finishing 8th overall, beating Corvettes, Camaros and Porsches.
Well, that was so to interrupt. That was just in the wall, I think, for both. And now they're onto the apron here. What's going on here? And very slow on the inside. Morgan hit the wall, and Pollard hit the wall as well. And I think they might have a bit of damage. They'll do well to get those cars to the end of the race. It was really strange how they both just understeered off, and Morgan loses the place to Tolman. But certainly this circuit, it is a tight and twisty one. I mean, there's not too many long straights. I guess we've got NASCAR 1 and 2 into the chicane, but besides that, it's going to be about the points. Should certainly favour the Porsche this circuit, but other circuits, I'm sure it's going to come to the BMW. And of course, when you've got good straight line speed, it does help the raceability as well. Much easier to make overtakes if you're quick down the straights rather than quick through the corners. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment. The BMW's difficult to be overtaken.
Yeah, well, certainly it's a 1-2-3. So first blood to Weissach here in this all-German battle here in the Apex Racing Academy GT4 VRS Super Series. Thank you also very much to our series sponsor, VRS, the Virtual Racing School. If you want to go faster in iRacing, give the guys a shout and they'll be delighted to help you. Also, the Apex Racing Academy as well. We have all the drivers involved in this series here can get involved with the Apex Racing Academy and learn how to go quicker in the sim. So lap 18 then, 1 minute to go before we go into overtime effectively. And oh dear, look at that damage on the back of Joel Evans' car. What has happened to him? He has got big damage on the rear right quarter panel of that car, of the number 124 machine. What on earth has happened to him? He's hit the wall on the outside in a really big way, but it doesn't seem to be slowing him down.
Well, that last lap run was great. He stayed in the 23s. He's the only guy left in the 23s. Everyone else, despite the track getting cooler, I think that the tyres just degrading. And so Evans' pace has been superb. Sokolowski can't keep up with him now. Those sector times as well, he's keeping it up. But you're absolutely right, that is damage, and that risks completely breaking the wheel, frankly, with the new damage model. But he's got away with it, and it looks as though he's going to be in for his first race win of the season. And the driver who exited the first race of the season, first round of the championship, down in 10th place in the championship. He's going to be probably up into the top 5 after this performance.
Absolutely, yeah. We've seen a really big shuffle up in this first race of the day here at Charlotte on the Roval, and the checkered flag is out waiting for Joel Evans, the Welshman in the number 124 Porsche, is your winner then for race 1 here in the Apex Racing Academy GT4 Super Series. Fantastic stuff. Sokolowski, the pole, comes in second place. A great drive from him from 5th on the grid. Third is Silcock, Mark Silcock, for Team Hutchin. He's making it a Porsche 1-2-3. Matthias Beer, the German Austin Powers, makes it 4th place with Hell Racers BMW driver Philip Johansson in 5th. What a race that was, Sam.
Good, particularly the early stages, as Morgan, I swear that guy is like wrecked. Pollard's too also hit the wall. I think Tolman managed to beat him, and it was Pollard ahead of Morgan. Good battle between the two of them. Velikov, despite having a few scrapes, I think making a few enemies out there, was Velikov, ends up in 10th. It's a reverse grid pole, but particularly the first part of that race was great. I remember that opportunity that Sokolowski had to overtake Evans. He got pretty much alongside. Well, he forced, I think he forced Evans to cut the circuit, didn't he? Yeah, Evans didn't get a big slide up, managed to stay ahead, and then after that pulled away. So Sokolowski had his chance, couldn't make it pay, and now this is going to be fascinating. Race 2, tricky to overtake. It'll be fascinating to see if the top guys from this race can find their way up to the front in race 2.
Absolutely, yeah. Mikhail Velikov, he was certainly in the rough and tumble of the GT4 pack there in the AM class, finishing 3rd in his class and then getting the overall pole for race 2. That's fantastic for Mikhail Velikov. So the drivers now going out for they've got an opportunity to go out for a 5-minute warm up. Well, we have a 5-minute cool down here in the commentary box. I suspect any reverse grid race always throws up additional spice, but here at the Roval, well, look at this. We're looking into turn 1. It's so narrow through there and really tricky. But let's confirm our first race results if we can. Let's see if I can get our graphic up. There we go. Joel Evans wins then from Patrick Sokolowski by 4 seconds in the end. Mark Silcock rounds out the podium in third to make it a Porsche 1-2-3. Matthias Beer and Philip Johansson were in fourth and fifth. Marco Tolman, also in a BMW, wins in the AM class. Great drive from the Dutchman. Mike Pollard was seventh with Jose Malbran in eighth. Jeff Miner, Mihail Velikov and Pontus Overstrom were the second, third and fourth place AM drivers, 9th, 10th, 11th overall. Will Nguyen was 12th, Roger Christensen 13th, Greg Hubler 14th. Thomas Wangen, the former leader of that race, dropped all the way back to 15th place, but critically kept on the lead lap and will score points. Mark Jones was 16th with Jorge Villegas in 17th. Chris Rear was 18th. And our final few runners were Mike Van Beek, Aaron Gibson, and Mark Heron, the Scotsman. All the drivers finishing at least within one lap, which is always good to see. We don't like to see anyone parking up for the day.
Yeah, that was everyone scores points, which is really great. So I think we're going to quickly watch a little promotion video for VRS. David Williams, I believe it is, one of the long-time VRS drivers. I'm going to talk to you about some of the setups that they create and what makes them so fantastic. So we'll be back with you in about 3 minutes time after this little video.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Welcome back to the Apex Racing Academy GT4 VRS Super Series. We hope you enjoyed that little clip there to find out all the stuff you can get involved with the virtual racing school. And like anything, there is nothing better than a good coach. I always use Valentino Rossi as an example, a 9-time world champion motorcycle racer, won over 100 Grand Prix races, now in his 40s, and even he still has a trackside coach. So if you want to go quicker in sim racing, give the guys at VRS a shout. So our warm-up is over, and we will be gridding up in traditional Charlotte fashion for race number 2, and I'm really excited for this one. 40-minute race with a pit stop in between, which is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, mandatory pit stop for the drivers to go through. Also, a little bit of a shout out to those guys who are joining us on the iRacing esports network. Apologies that we brought to you the action a little bit late, but hopefully maybe later on you can rewatch race 1, because it was a very good race 1, particularly the first 10 minutes or so. And well, unfortunately you're here for race 2, which should hopefully be even better over the next 40 minutes.
Yep, spoiler alert, a German car won. So here's how they line up then for the second race of the evening. Mihail Velikov starts on pole position alongside Jeff Miner. Row 2 will be Jose Malbran and Mike Pollard. Row 3, Marco Tolman and Philip Johansson. Row 4 will be Matthias Beer and Mark Silcock, and your leaders from race 1, Patrick Sokolowski and Joel Evans, round out the top 10. Pontus Overstrom will start from 11th alongside Will Newell. 13th and 14th will be Roger Christensen and Greg Hubler, followed by Thomas Wangen, Mark Jones, Jorge Villegas, Chris Rear, Mike Van Beek, Erin Gibson, and finally, at the back, Mark Heron, the Scotsman in his BMW. But watch for him. He did very well in the second race last time out, so watch for the wily Scots to come through the pack.
Yeah, just trying to find where Heron managed to end up. Yeah, he got 6th place. He was 15th in race 1, 6th place in race 2. So you're absolutely right. It was a really good drive from him. Leader of the amateur category going into this round was Overstrom with 70 points, but it was so close in that category. I think Tolman will now be top, because he was only 6 points behind the top of the championship, despite being in 3rd place in that fight. 7-round championship, of course. This so still loads of races for the drivers to come back on, but the slightly smaller field that we've got, there isn't that much more importance for each of these positions, and of course very advantageous for a couple of the amateur drivers to get in. Jeff Miner in his first race of the season, man from Texas, and yeah, in his first meeting, doing a really good job as an amateur driver to put it up on the front row of the grid. We need to see how him and Velikov, or if they battle, and how long that he can battle with the drivers behind as well.
Absolutely, you know that Velikov, he's going to fight for that position really fiercely as well. He'll have his elbows out after race 1. But yeah, great welcome, Jeff Miner, to the series here in the Apex Racing Academy, and we're happy to announce we've got a few new runners who will join us in 2 weeks' time when we reconvene in the Apex Racing Academy GT4 series, and please do tune in to that on the Apex Racing TV channel and the iRacing eSports network. So our drivers wiggling around, just getting a little bit of just those extra 0.1, 0.2 of a degree into the tyres, getting ready to go into turn 1, and we'll be ready to go going around the final chicane. Our pace car driver, Patrick in the Porsche, will turn away, and we will be almost ready to go here. Porsche versus BMW at the front of this pack right now. We believe the BMW to have a little bit more straight line speed, but the dash to turn 1 here at Charlotte is incredibly short. So this is where more bravery than anything is going to be the important part into turn 1. Who's your pick for this one, Sam?
I'll go Johansson for his second race win of the season.
Ooh, I'm going to go for Matthias Beer, because I like beer. There we go. Right. Lights are up, and oh, straight away, Jeff Miner has a major oversteer moment, just about hangs on to it, but I think he's had contact with one of the front 2 drivers. I'm not quite sure which, but wow, they just, we know these BMWs are pretty spiky in road car trim, particularly in the wet, but my goodness me, that was a huge moment from Jeff Miner there. He's just about hung on to it. Oh, Velikov's in the middle of the road. That's going to be huge. And oh, Miner punts Johansson off. Oh my word, it's all happening here. Oh, Matthias Beer's off. So Sam Fitzpatrick and I's picks, they're both out already. Sorry about that one, guys. And Thomas Wangan, he's up to 10th place and he has a barge as well. And my goodness me, this is like a Mario Kart race, Sam.
So many different little incidents are there down the order. Jones and Newell, I think, with that most recent one. Means that Morgan is up into the lead. Evans up 8 places. The winner from race 1. But look at Morgan's lead. He's in a different state right now. He's gotten off into Alabama or something, and he's absolutely miles ahead is the Argentinian. But Evans up into 2nd place. Massive start for him. Poor start for Johansson. I mean, he was up into 3rd place. If I could have burned him, I would have been cashing out when he was up to 3rd place there. So I'm not calling that too much of a loss. But that was a massive shame for him. Not sure if it was contact. You said it was contact. But yeah, the two of them just spinning round, and so many missed opportunities. As a bit further back, I think that was Sokolowski trying to go for a move on Pollard. Didn't work out for him. Now Sokolowski having to defend from Coleman just behind. The amateur driver is still in with a great chance of a huge haul of points.
Yeah, he absolutely will. And Mark Silcock here in 3rd. So let's get a look then. Let's get a close look to see what on earth happened. Now, these cars do have anti-lock brakes and they do have traction control, but there is a limit. These slick tyres would be cold, and yes, as soon as Jeff Miner asks for the power, he gets big loose and he gets into the back of Malbran. That is interesting. So Malbran, their leader, he is the guy that took the contact from the very wild Texan Jeff Miner, but it doesn't appear to be holding him back right now, but we'll have to watch that closely as well. Somebody's wing mirror goes flying off there, and Milikov, he's broadside across the circuit. A lot of drivers do really well to get by, and it creates a bit of a domino effect, and Joel Evans just slingshots through the middle there and makes a great go of it, and gee whiz, what an eventful start.
Some of the drivers did a really good job there, particularly the 299 of Hubler. To get on the grass, lost a wing there, but could have lost a tyre instead. So nice driving down. Pollard in 5th position now, and he's just been overtaken, I think, by Sokolowski. So Carbon Esports go up into 4th. Sokolowski, by the way, is 3 seconds behind Evans. Evans could be on for a double. The driver who finished like 5th and 15th last week, and he could be on for 2 second places and maybe even the lead of the championship. What a turn of events that would be. You feel like Sokolowski is the only guy who could stop him, because Morgan is dropping into the clutch, so we may have to pay our attention to the race lead, because Evans on that last lap took 1.5 seconds out of the LFB racing team.
Yeah, Mulbrand definitely there was contact between him and Jeff Miner, but it's impossible to tell just how much of an issue that would be causing. However, this is where the pit stop is really, really helpful, because if you do have damage, you can get it sorted when you come in for your pit stop. And if I'm not mistaken, Sam, the drivers don't necessarily have a fuel limit, so they can kind of come in whenever they want to fill the tank up. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can come in whenever you want. Obviously, maybe in an ideal world you'd want to leave it as long as possible so you have less fuel and also less traffic to drive through, but if you are getting a bit stuck, can be worth coming into the pits. Morgan mega wide, do 3 and 4, and well, it was nice as though he was letting Evans go. I thought Morgan would be quite feisty, but instead very courteous, and he drops down to 2nd place, and now Mark Silcock is all over the back of the Silcock, running very well, and he'll be looking good in the championship after today as well, after finishing on the podium in race 1.
Yeah, he's shown good pace so far in this championship, Mark Silcock. Not quite all come together for him, but I think when it does, he'll be right there for a win. And I suspect up on the banking there, Malbran knows that he's maybe got a little bit of a straight line speed deficit on Evans because of that damage, and I think he did just very politely made plenty room and tried not to force the issue too much, which actually from Malbran is very sensible, because if you just get involved in too much of a tangle, you can really actually cause yourself more problems than it's worth. So we might see Malbran come into pit lane earlier than expected to take his pit stop, get fixed and go back out again. But there's Sokolowski. Looks like each one of these cars have little bits of minor damage here and there, just little scratches and scrapes, nothing that a bit of teacup won't fix, but just going to maybe just affect the aerodynamics that ever so slight bit.
Yeah, I think so, and you everything that you possibly can. Yeah, lots of wing mirrors, I think, basically just on the step on the plate concept on that first lap. So you Sokolowski with a little bit of damage, I think, on his front right. I'm not quite sure what's there. As Silcock with a chance of Morgan, who just doesn't have the pace of the gear, but through the corners. And looking at the schedule as well, next round's going to be Oran Park and then Mid-Ohio. So it could be a long season for the BMWs until we get to Daytona, when they'll be able to stretch their legs a little bit more with their good straight line speed as Sokolowski up into the podium places.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sort of lucky to be sitting trackside at the Rolex 24 Hour at Daytona this year, and the big BMW M8s, the big brother of the M4. Well, they were dominant on the straights, just dragging away from the Porsches. So, yeah, I think when we get to Daytona, we're going to see a BMW comeback. But Oran Park, well, that's more of a electric circuit than a racetrack, isn't it? So it's that will be Porsche County. That is for sure. Looking at Roger Christensen having a much better run of it here in race number 2, 6 minutes down to the Team Vikings driver, and his car looks pretty clean and tidy, which is good news for him. And of course, this particular circuit in the real world, very fan-friendly, I believe, and in fact is home to the world's largest HD television screen. Wow. 200 foot wide and 80 foot tall. The only thing bigger than it is the burgers in the concessions area.
And probably more expensive as well. But yeah, that's a good fact. By that one, as Morgan is going to be overtaken by Sokolowski. Sokolowski likes this move. This time Morgan actually defending. I don't know if he's got like some kind of agreement with Joel Evans, when some money was dished out before the race, because he's held up Sokolowski for a bit, but then has to back out of it, and Silcock needs to get past right away because Christensen is on his way. Christensen with a very disappointing race 1, had to come into the pits for repairs on lap 1 or lap 2. But he's up into 5th place and catching these guys by over a second a lap. So trying to get a move on.
And for Joel Evans, he'll be getting it on his relative readout. You never know if he's a wise competitor. He'll have the SDK Gaming overlay telling him that Sokolowski is now up into P number 2. And, well, it didn't seem to bother him in race 1, did it, Sam? Where we thought that Sokolowski might have run him down, but Joel Evans held very, very strong, and he's holding strong again here. Yeah, that's when you don't want to see one of the fastest runners in the championship coming up in the position behind you. But this is going to be fascinating to watch as the race progresses if Evans can hold Sokolowski off.
Some great times at the main field. Evans into the 22s, race 1, who's in the 22s for the entire race, which no one else could see. Maybe Sokolowski was in the 20s early on, but then it dropped back to the track. A little bit cooler than it was. We are getting into the evening now. You can see by the shadows passing across the circuit. So it's about 6 o'clock in the evening. As that was a hit with the wall. A couple of times recently. Will not help him into the 25. So whilst the leader's in the 22s, still confident in the 25s along with Morgan. And how the gap is expanding so quick. Marco Tolman, by the way, gave us Jorge Vigeas recently. So that is a big move for the amateur class leader at the moment. But waiting for some drivers to come into the pit. We have had Beer, Belikov, Johansson, Hubler and Newell already into the pits. So it's keep an eye on their lap time to see how they compare to the front runners.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, a lot of those drivers caught up in the lap 1 melee, and yeah, great that they have that option up their sleeve to get in and get that damage repaired rather than having to drive it. Oh, Malbrand's off! He's in the wall. He is in the wall. Just a little bit of a wiggle, a twitch, and a flick, and into the wall. And Roger Christensen takes the position, as does Mark Silcock. So that changes things, and now Thomas Wangen up to 5th place as well. So there we are, the two Team Vikings drivers who, don't forget, clashed into each other at Montreal last time out. So coming out of the chicane, Malbrand just gets a little bit wide, tries to ask for the power. Whoa, 1, 2, bang. Oh dear. They are twitchy, these BMWs, turbocharged power. When you ask for the power, they've got a lot more torque than the Porsche and not quite as linear. And yeah, that he got a demonstration of that there.
Silcock coming in behind as well. Not sure if there was a gap there for Silcock. Maybe he was expecting Morgan to cut the... Yeah, well, I see what Silcock's thinking there. He's thinking that, you know, Morgan's going to run wide because hit the wall. He's going to the right, and then all of a sudden he straightens up, does Morgan. So I don't know why Morgan hasn't come into the pits either. Yeah, you can understand Silcock's confusion there, but that could be a penalty for him. No in-race stewards, but there will be post-race stewarding, but the drivers will just have to report that instant. And the stewards will have a look to see if any penalty was deserved there. Shame for Morgan there, because that would have been a good point for him. I imagine he'll be into pits very soon with the down shoes. Now we've got Christiansen continuing his good momentum, and he's now going to try to move past Silcock on the inside into the chicane. We have seen plenty of times you can cut this chicane and not get a big slowdown. He didn't cut the chicane though, he did Silcock, and now he's going to lose out to Thomas Wangen as well, who was of course the race leader in the early stages of race 1. And now Wangen's hit the wall again. How much damage has he got? How on earth did that happen?
Yeah, it looked like, Thomas Wangen tried to go round the outside of Silcock on the banking, which is very, very tight indeed. So let's get a look at it then. We're just at the chase cam here. So there's a little bit of contact there, just a little bit of a racing incident, a little bit of another bit of just a little rub there as well between Wangen and Silcock. Silcock gets very late in the brakes, and Wangen goes to, so he goes to tuck back, gets a little bit eager on the throttle to try and get the jump on Silcock, gets loose, and flicks into the wall. So a little bit of a mistake there from Thomas Wangen, and Silcock lives to fight another day. Thomas Wangen, well, I think you're right. I think we'll need to see him into pit lane to get that damage sorted out.
I mean, it get Wangen out of traffic as well, so it seems like an obvious decision. It's a bit the strategy as well for Team Vikings. Wangen's still got some pace because he's just moved ahead of Silcock, so maybe Wangen is alright with the damage he has got. Meanwhile, Will Newell, who's the other new driver, because he's just all over the world. We've got North American guys, we've got one South American driver in VRS from Colombia. I think that's Colombia. I thought the Lithuanian flag was the Colombian flag the other day, I must admit, but I'm pretty sure the VRS is from that area of the world. And then also, of course, plenty of Europeans, some Australians as well. So nice diversity in the championship. It doesn't bode well though for ping incidents, because we've got to place it somewhere. And we currently have this server in the Netherlands, which is quite far for the Australians for their ping to go. But so far this season we haven't seen too many incidents like that.
Yeah, it's something that fascinates me, and when people ask me about commentating on sim racing, they go, "How does it work?" I said, "Well, you'll have guys in, like you say, in America, in Australia, Japan, wherever, all over Europe, all simultaneously sitting at home on their sim regs racing in real time, and we're broadcasting in real time remotely as well." It's just the most extraordinary technology, which we're so lucky to have, to be honest, in motorsport, because there is no other sport that can be simulated so closely in this way. And to me, Sam, as we see our drivers go 3 wide here, Matthias Beer getting a big jump, but to me, Sam, this is the new club motorsport, because in the old days you could go to club racing with your own road car if you wanted to. That kind of thing is gone. Club motorsport's got really expensive. And to me, this is club racing now on the sim. And how cool is it to go club racing with a BMW M4, a Porsche, a Corvette, an LMP2 car? I mean, how cool is that?
Absolutely. I mean, I used to do karting when I was quite young, from about the ages of 8 to 13, and a set of tyres costs the same as an iRacing membership fee for a year. So and that's like the lowest form. This is like cadets in karting, the lowest form of motorsport pretty much, and the fees in comparison are just not the same whatsoever. It should make motorsport a lot more accessible. Because iRacing is still quite expensive, but once you got the majority of the content, then you're pretty much just paying the yearly subscription, maybe paying I don't know, maybe 120 pounds a year, maybe $150 a year. That's kind of manageable at that point for the server to third service. That it's you're absolutely right. And in terms of a talent pool as well, there are so many drivers, particularly on iRacing. You could have a good chance in the real racing scene. It would be fantastic to see the likes of Kronke and a few other the top drivers have a go in the real world. I'm sure they would give the real life drivers a run for their money.
Absolutely. And speaking of the run for the money, Philip Johansson just dragging around the outside here of Aaron Gibson, the Canadian driver, both driving BMW M4s here, tucking down into the hairpin. No, I think you're absolutely right. And one of the great things about iRacing is I think it was one of the biggest steps for sim racing in general. Is even before the lockdown, you had many real-world pro racing drivers who are endorsing the technology. And I think when a real-world racing driver said, "Yeah, this is the real deal. I use it. It's brilliant," I think that is the best endorsement you can get. And I think that was the real kind of starting point. I think for what we're seeing today, for sure. But also one of the great things about iRacing as well, I had a race. Oh, Velikov's off in the Porsche. He just got a little bit loose there over the curbs and into the wall. It's certainly been an eventful day for Mihail Velikov, and yeah, he'll get back going again, but surely a little bit of damage to that Porsche. But yeah, just coming back to it with iRacing, you know, I had a race a couple of weeks ago at Daytona, a Le Mans Series race, and I was in an LMP2. And joining me in the LMP2 class was Nick Damon, who's one of the commentators with Radio Le Mans. And in the GT class, I kid you not, was Rubens Barrichello.
Oh yeah.
And of course, because he was in a GT car and I was in an LMP2 car, I got to pass him, and I was passing Rubens Barrichello, and I felt like $1 million. I'll be honest.
One of my proudest moments is when I think I was racing at Le Mans, maybe in a GTE car, and Nicky T, the World Endurance Driver champion, came up across me, I think in a P2, and complained about me on the iRacing driver chat for not letting him pass for blue flags, and that was one of the best moments of my life to anchor Nicky T. Miss Joel Evans was a little bit of a moment. Of course, we saw the race leader crash at that corner earlier on today, and that's Evans' first mistake of the day, and that was very unusual. Fortunately for him, he's still got a 6.5 second lead.
Yeah, that was an unusual mistake, and just showing that he completely cut the chicane. He had to, just got a little bit loose, a little bit late on the brakes, and it just shows you that actually you might just be better just throwing a load of gas at it, or just cutting through the chicane with the throttle off. And almost it's almost a little bit of a kind of advantage to gain from the iRacing system, how it works. And normally it's incredibly strict. It's like the strictest of strict school teachers, the iRacing stewarding system. But here at the Roval, they found a little bit of a loophole, it seems.
He lost about 1.8 seconds by cuts in the chicane with the slowdown, which isn't a lot. And there's, I mean, the drivers don't. You could train, I guess. Some drivers are more expensive than others, but there is a certain skill to serving a slowdown. Just knowing the circuit where the slowdown will increase, because it's comparing you to like your best time, but then it's also a weird iRacing algorithm, and so you can be really good at serving it and absolutely nuts. So you probably only lose 1.5 seconds, and yeah, normally it's way more than that. So I do think iRacing must have a look at this circuit and maybe change that, because if it was grass, then there's a penalty going off in the first place, isn't there? But the fact that it's tarmac, you can gain so much time by cutting the track that you need a bit more of a penalty, I think, when you do come back on. But instead, Evans' gap goes from 7 seconds to 6.5. Or 5.5. It's down to 5 again. Sokolowski playing in some good times at the moment. Evans crosses the line. It's a 24.4, which was in there. He was in the 22s earlier. A little bit slower, so there is some morality too.
I think he's rubbed the wall a couple of times. I think he did there as well. But it looks to me that 124 is the pace now. As we see Aaron Gibson throwing a big old block there. That's very NASCAR. There's a Porsche mirror come off. There's £500. Oh dear. So it's Aaron Gibson certainly getting her elbows out and muscling her way with her M-class contenders here. Velikov now in the draft as well. This is fierce stuff on the high banks of Charlotte. But I suspect that Joel Evans will need to come into pit lane, and as I say that, I think he has. I just saw his name go red on the timing screen, which does that indicates he's coming into pit lane, I understand.
At the moment, he's not coming into the pits, at least. Or maybe he had a little bit of an off. Maybe, I mean,
Maybe.
our system does work slightly different to the iRacing system. If they go all four wheels off the track limits that we kind of have, then you pick up a 1x, or you pick up an off jack according to our system. But that may not be the same as the iRacing jack. They may not lose time necessarily. That's a big slide for Mike Van Beek, who is up 10 places so far. There's Van Beek, albeit several of the drivers behind him have come into the pits. Matthias Beer, the top of the drivers who've come into the pits, he is lap times late, a bit underwhelming as far as I've seen him as Wangen comes into the pits. Beer's been kind of in the high 24s, 25s on that last lap, which is about a second slower than the race users, which considering that Beer is one of the best drivers in this race, was expecting a little bit more from him. And I think when Wangen comes out of the pits, I think he will be clear of Beer. So I think the highest that Beer can wish for in this race is probably going to be maybe 6th place. Look, Wangen's already at the pit exit, and Beer's not even at the final chicane.
Ah, interesting. So you're saying his lap times are a little bit flat?
Yeah. Wait, was that a pun? Was that a pun?
Absolutely.
It was a decent one. It was a good one.
I was in my role as Apex Racing League race reporter. I do listen back to a lot of you and Mr. Hedgecock Esquire's commentary, and the puns are fantastic. I have to say my favourite was actually Andrew Woodhouse and Adam Bath, their gardening related or landscape related puns the other day when bang! Speaking of the 1-2-2 of Matthias Beer going hard into the side of Van Beek, the third place driver in the AM class. But goodness me, this has been a lot fiercer than at Montreal, Sam.
Mowing into his rival right there. But it has been a lot more. But, we didn't see any protests from Montreal. Maybe a couple of them instances could have been protested, but in the end, there are no protests that came through for the drivers. So I imagine we will see a couple today, but it's still been decent racing. I think last season as well, I remember me and Dane Bird were working through the live stewarding, and there were quite a few incidents to go through. It has been much better though this season with this slightly smaller grid. It's nice that the drivers are going and get to know each other a little bit better as well, with them racing week in, week out with this extended championship as well, 5 rounds. Up to the 7, Beer still behind Silcock, so it's now Wangen, top of the drivers who have made the stop. Silcock came into the pits about 7 laps ago, which was pretty early after I think picking up a bit of damage. So Silcock now is second out of the drivers who have come into the pits, but these guys are 8 seconds behind Wangen. And remember, Wangen was only 4th place before the pit stop, so that early stop for these guys hasn't been great. And Matthias Beer, I feel for him, to be honest, because this track is totally not a BMW circuit, and you feel like he's putting his absolute all into it. He's not going bad, he just does not have the pace that he usually has.
Yeah, you look at the times, it's Porsche 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 cars in the top 10. It's definitely a day for the Porsches, and it looks like it'll be more pain for the BMWs when we go to Oran Park, or you would think so. But of course, what do we have tomorrow? We have a big, one of the major sort of quarterly updates to the iRacing service, where normally a big kind of shift in fortunes a lot of the time, particularly in balance of performance related series, which of course this is one, the GT4s. So it could be that all of a sudden we have a BMW 123 at Oran Park after a big update. But given given the layout of these cars in the real world, that would be unlikely. But stranger things have happened.
I really hope that they keep it the same, but you're probably right, they will probably change it. But I think at the moment it works well. Some series that we've got, I certainly remember when we used to broadcast the World GT Championship, which also is on the eSports Network. By the way, was on last night. But they tended to visit proper GP circuits, and you had the BMW, which was very good through the corners. The BMW Z4 is very good to do the corners, unlike pretty much all of its cousins. That's quite there for Vigier, so he's going to be unspecial from Overstrom. But loads of GP circuits, and it meant that the low downforce cars, or the cars which are good down the straight, really benefited. It seems like this season, at least, in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, which we copy for this championship, there picks a lot of high downforce zones. Pretty much apart from Daytona, there's very few. I mean, Oran Park is as tight and twisty as you can get, pretty much, and there's plenty of other zones. Mid Ohio, and also Coates as well will be good for the Porsche. I imagine Red Atlanta as well could be beneficial. So I think the balance of cars actually works decently. It should mean that the BMW should be faster around some circuits and the Porsche quicker around other circuits. But knowing iRacing, they'll probably change it slightly, and we'll have 12 weeks of very unbalanced cars.
You never know. Yeah, you never know what might happen, and of course there's opportunity for little tweaks along the way as well each week. But I think Kota will be interesting because, of course, Kota, you've got that enormous back straight. I can't remember how long it is, but it's about half the length of Texas, that back straight. So that might be where the BMW can really gallop into, and you're in top gear for quite a long time. But like you say, the bits when you're not on that back straight, it's very, very kind of aero and grip dependent, and that's going to suit the little Porsches. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see over the course of the series. And sometimes, you can just take a driver come in who's a little bit special and comes in maybe not the preferred car, but shakes the order up.
Yeah, that was special right there from Overstrom. Getting, but it was about 2 seconds behind Vigier there, and then just much better on the brakes coming into the pits, and he just about moves ahead. Not sure why they're pitting right now. They didn't think. Certainly, if Overstrom had stayed out, he wouldn't have been in traffic. He's decided to come into the pits nonetheless. The driver should be able to go for probably another 5 minutes or so, and well, there you go. Overstrom way ahead of Vigier, so he's come into the pits a second and a half behind. He comes out of the pits about 3 seconds clear. That's how you do a good pit stop.
Yeah, that was textbook, wasn't it? That was real NASCAR style, where they all pile into the pit lane in all kinds of lines. And yeah, a brilliant demonstration of how much time can be gained just on being aggressive on pit entry. But of course, you are flirting with disaster a little bit. It's if you just overstep the mark, you will get popped for speeding in pit lane, and that will be a very long and slow drive-through penalty, which nobody ever enjoys taking. But I feel like we've not given poor old Joel Evans the credit he deserves, because he is driving a really good race here, a fantastic race indeed, and leading, to be honest, the class of the field last time out, Sokolowski, by 5 seconds, and driving really, really well. It's basically establishing himself as one of the true championship contenders, and showed that he really was hit with quite a lot of bad fortune last time.
At the moment, he'd score 60 points for this meeting. And just go records across the 2 races from last time. I think he only got he got 68 points. So he'll be almost doubling what he got from last week, and he will. Not sure how many points or what position he'll be in. He'll be really close. I mean, Johansson's not had a particularly good day. Christensen had a very tricky race 1. Beer just has been struggling, particularly in this race 2. Wangen has dropped a lot of points they could have had. But Wangen has Sokolowski maybe moved to the top of the championship, but Evans could really go 10th place in the championship, probably up to the top 3 after this meeting, such is this dominance at the moment. He's 4.9 seconds clear of Sokolowski. Hasn't got the dominance over Sokolowski they had last in race 1. This was around the time, or 10 minutes ago, was around the time that Evans started to really put a gap to Sokolowski, wasn't it? Where he was able to keep up his times. Sokolowski dropped off. It's been slightly different in this race. Evans dropping off slightly more himself. The gap has come down a bit, but it hasn't come down below the 4-second barrier at the moment. Oh, as that's across the curbing for Johansson, and hitting the wall is Johansson. How much damage is on that car? That could be big for Philip right there. And will he have to come to the pits? Because if he does have to come to the pits, then he's probably used his fast repair already, and that might be the end of his day.
Yeah, that it looked like he got a bit of a tap there from Will Newell. It might have been netcode related possibly, but it looked like there was an ever so slight tap, and that just made Johansson obviously then miss his braking point over the curbs, lost the braking effect, and then whack straight into the concrete wall. So Will Newell there probably feeling a little bit of the naughty schoolboy syndrome a little bit after seeing Johansson go flying nose first into the wall there in his Hellraiser's BMW. So interesting if it's possible to get a little bit of a look at that, but we'll see if we can. But yeah, Will Newell in the number 20, I'd suspect there was just a slither of contact there.
Newell having a great race, by the way, pitted on lap 1 of the event and has been lapping similar to other drivers who pitted earlier. Of course, Johansson himself and also Matthias Pitt only 6 seconds ahead. So Newell certainly a driver to watch out for in the future. About 2.5k iRacing, so was comfortably a pro driver. But certainly could be in for a podium perhaps later on in the championship. Tolman into the pit. So Tolman was top of the amateur drivers in race 1. I think I can't remember where he was in this race before the pits that just came in so early. I think he was behind ahead of Overstrom before Overstrom made his pit stop. So the driver in 11th place should be quite comfortable for Tolman, I think, to stay in the lead. Newell does come past. Tolman's stationing for a while. The Dutch driver stationed for 11, 12 and a half seconds. The others have been stationing for about 5 seconds. So Tolman's just lost 7.5 seconds in the pits, and he comes out behind Overstrom and Vergeas. Otherwise, he would have been ahead of Overstrom and lead of the amateur drivers. So that's a big mistake there from Michael Tolman.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. I wonder, maybe nursing some damage or who knows? But then, of course, he would have had his fast repair. Of course, maybe a fuel miscalculation. Maybe perhaps. Dearie me, one of the Hellraiser's cars off there, nearly taking out Pontus Overstrom, the AM-class leader. But great drive here from Aaron Gibson from the back of the grid, climbing up and really fighting hard. Brilliant stuff from the Canadian driver. But yeah, it's going to be interesting with Overstrom and Tolman. They're now at the moment, they are just looking at the timing screen, they're just about 5.5 seconds apart with 7 minutes to go. So that'll be interesting to see how that one concludes. But yeah, Jose Malbran as well, that car's looking much more healthy than it was earlier on.
Yeah, you wonder where Malbran could have been for that incident that he had. By the way, just coming into the pits was Christiansen. He's just stayed ahead of his teammate Wangen. Those two are very evenly matched. And also Johansson has come into the pits and will retire from this race. So Philip Johansson, he was the championship leader going into this meeting. He got a first and a fifth last time out at Montreal. No points for this second race of the evening, and you get a decent amount of points just for finishing, say, 20th. I mean, you probably still get about 20 points for finishing in 20th place, so not finishing is a massive disadvantage and a mistake that could harm his championship aspirations, and he'll be going tumbling down in the order of the Swedish driver.
Yeah, that's not good news at all, and I tell you what, this is it's certainly a long old 40 minutes for these drivers to maintain that concentration and avoid mistakes, avoid those little rubs with the wall. Can you imagine, Sam, that back in 1974 when the Camel GT series came here, they did 133 laps of this exact same layout on their own, and a Peter Gregg won from a young Hurley Haywood, both of them driving Porsche Carrera RSRs. I can imagine driving a 1970s Carrera RSR around here for 133 laps in August in this part of the world would be absolutely exhausting.
I would, if we were doing this in modern days, I would certainly invest in some air conditioning or 5 or 6 fans, even with the weights. I wouldn't faint during the event. Was that just solo drivers then, or was that a team?
No, that was solo drivers.
Wow.
Incredible.
So that must have been maybe 4 hours?
Yeah,
probably 4 hours.
Yes, it was. 300 miles around here, around the road course. And in those things, you know, they'll be busy cars to drive. You can imagine a 1970s Carrera RSR, and yeah, they made a different stuff sometimes, these guys. But you know, it's even Brian Redburn. He actually won the Imola 500 kilometers in a Porsche 917 driving on his own. So these guys were they were special human beings, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm always very. Evans just going to this. Evans into the pits, by the way, and he has kept the lead. Lead's come down though. It's down to 3.8. It's a mega short pit stop for Sokolowski, 4.3 seconds, which is the shortest pit stop we've seen. The average is going to be about 5.5, 6 seconds. Evans 5.2, so enough fuel to get him to the end, and yeah, 4 seconds between the top two, so looking good for the Welsh driver. But the longest stint I can remember is doing, yeah, and obviously this is just, you know, you know what, actually I did do like a 2-hour kart race when I was about 9 years old in rental cars, and I don't know if anyone's driven rental cars, but you know, heavy steering, and that was good. You should do more endurance karting would be a good idea. And obviously, as a 9-year-old, I was absolutely knackered by the end of that, and I lost it on the run to the line on the last lap, which was disappointing. But anyway,
It's good you've got over it though.
Totally, absolutely, should have been mine.
For my younger days out on the golf course, I've got many a story like that where which I've also definitely got over. So we're looking at Roger Christensen on screen right now in 3rd place for Team Vikings. It's been another eventful day for the Team Vikings guys of Christensen and Wangen, but like at Montreal, somehow they've been able to salvage the result. They're in 3rd and 4th place right now. I suspect, given the amount of sort of rough and tumble they've had, I think they'll actually probably accept that, I would guess.
I think so. In the teams championship going into this round, we've only got the 4 teams, and Team Vikings were already 50 points clear. They came into this round 198 points. LFB Racing Team 142, Samsung Emerald 118, and Samsung Blue 70. So they'll extend that championship. I'm sure Team Vikings would absolutely love to get that title. I've raced against them, I think, in the Club Sports Series in his first season, and always very fair drivers. And like I said earlier on, you know how to get the best out of them. Aren't necessarily the absolute fastest, maybe aren't quite pro level, but when it comes to a championship, they are very consistent drivers. Yeah, they won the title actually. I was fighting against them before, so very good bunch of guys. The leaders are just about to start their last lap. We got 1 minute 36 on the clock. The lap is 1 minute 24, so we've got 2 more laps to go. Just wonder if Sokolowski's maybe under-fueled here. He did put very little fuel, of course, at his pit stop. 4.3 seconds, which is lower than everyone else. I just wonder if he's going to be marginal on fuel. Maybe he was expecting 1 fuel lap. At the same time, though, he's just done a 23.99, which is exceptionally fast. So he's not slowing down at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly proves that the best strategy for the drivers, they all start on the same fuel, of course, is to run it as long into the race as you can, and then of course you get a few laps on light fuel load, towards the end, and then of course you don't have to put as much fuel in because you've got not as long to the end of the race. And Evans and Sokolowski have played that beautifully. But of course, in order to do that strategy, well, you have to keep the car out the barrier, of course, and not have to come in to fix the damage. So that's what, on the most part, Evans and Sokolowski have been able to do. And yeah, interesting stuff. I tell you what, every time they come out of that hairpin, out of that chicane, it makes me very nervous when the car gets that little slide, that little wiggle going past that wall. And of course, we've seen a few drivers hit it, but it makes me jump every single time.
Well, we used to have the back in 2018 when this track was first released, we had the legendary chicane. I don't know if you ever saw it, Peter, but pretty much I don't know how to explain it really, but it was pretty much a flat out chicane, but if you missed it, you went straight into a wall. And there are some legendary moments of the mega tall curves and the most tricky corner you'll ever see. I'd love to host a race potentially round with that configuration in the future, because it will suicidal, absolutely crazy. Like the Singapore sling, but at about 150 mile an hour. It was insane. We've got this new version, which is much better for racing. Compared to that, the new chicane should be easy for us. You guys have no excuse to make a mistake. Because Evans, he hasn't really made a mistake. He had that little excursion, didn't he, at the bus stop? But apart from that, it's been very comfortable. And it looks as though he's going to take a double race victory, which might be a first in the ARA GT4 Championship.
It is. It's been a fantastic evening for Joel Evans, the number 124 Porsche Welshman. Absolutely flawless night from him, and we mustn't forget that he did an incredible job at the start of this race, starting from 10th place and was up to second by the end of the first lap and sighed through all of that carnage. But here he comes then. Joel Evans takes the checkered flag for a double victory here in the Apex Racing Academy GT4 VRS Super Series. Brilliant stuff. Patrick Sokolowski makes it 2 second places as well. Good driving from him. He flashes his lights in delight. Christensen in third, Wangen in fourth. So third and fourth places for Team Vikings. But we ride on board with Pontus Overstrom at the wheel of the BMW M4. And looks like he's got it done to be the AM class winner of this feature race.
Another good drive from Overstrom. That it wasn't a perfect race for him, but his pace just managed to bring himself back into contention, didn't he? And he crossed the line in 9th place. Should still be top of those standings. Tolman with a good day, really good race one for Tolman. I couldn't quite deliver in race 2, of course, had that long pit stop. Otherwise, maybe could have got a top 10 under his belt. Good drive as well for Greg Hubler after having to take evasive action on the first lap. Was down in 20th place, I think. Recovering up into 12th. Also, apologies to Moritz Lohner, who did get a double at Lime Rock last season. Also won both his heat and the final at Silverstone. In fact, we had that alternative format. The second driver then, Joel Evans, in the Apex Racing Academy GT4 Championship to take a double, which is an impressive performance. And you would have long odds on that, Peter, before this meeting, because he didn't have the pace last time at Montreal. Obviously, he could have got a lot more out of that meeting. He was still probably in the top 5 fastest, but to go out there and beat to beat some top drivers such as Sokolowski in both races as he did was very impressive.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. To have a driver of Sokolowski's quality basically in his pocket. He had a measure of him all night in both races. Over an hour on track around here is tough going. It really is. It's just never to make that mistake. There's always a wall there to meet you at any given opportunities. The curbs are horrible. You make a mistake over them, you can really hit damage. But tell you what, he's going to wear that flash button out. He's starting to look more like an Audi driver by the second here.
Come on, where are the donuts? Come on, we're at an oval. Go do some donuts on the start finish line.
Yeah, he's. I always. Well, not that I have many race victories to celebrate, of course, but I like getting on the grass. It makes it a little bit easier. But some of the cup car drivers do that as well.
I'm waiting for someone to, and I've been saying this since the grass became a lot more malleable with the tire tracks. I've been waiting for someone to do some writing in the grass. You could probably write a love heart or a message. I don't know, first line of the B movie, something like that. Star Wars references, whatever. So unfortunately, I would practice, but I don't think I'm a reliable enough winner for it to be worth the effort. But someone needs to work on that.
Well, they could do, yes. I always remember that from Talladega Nights when Ricky Bobby drew a picture on the grass doing donuts as well. And of course, Talladega Nights was actually filmed here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as well. So, confirming then, Joel Evans wins by 3.5 seconds from Patrick Sokolowski. Roger Christensen for Team Vikings round out the podium with his teammate Thomas Wangen immediately behind in fourth. A little bit further back was Mark Silcock and Matthias Beer. Will Newell and Mike Pollard, and your AM-class winner, Pontus Overström, the Swede in the BMW. Jorge Villegas was in 10th, Marco Tolman 11th, Greg Hubler 12th, Jose Malbrand 13th, Mark Herron, the Scotsman, in 14th from the back of the grid. Great drive from him. Chris Rear in 15th, Mihail Velikov in 16th after a very eventful day. Mark Jones was 17th, Aaron Gibson was 18th, and rounding out our order, Mike Van Beek was 20th and Philip Johansson 21st. So that is our order then. Sam, do we have any of the drivers wanting to come up and have a little chat with us?
Not at the moment. Hopefully a couple of them will come for a chat. I don't think any of them came last week, did they?
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember.
we're not that scary. But apparently a few did, to be fair. So.
Oh, of course. That's where Matthias Beer got his nickname as the German Austin Powers. Of course. How could I forget? Well, I tell you, here's time for one more fun fact then. In 1984, in the IMSA 500 kilometers, was won by a team called Blue Thunder, which was owned by a chap called Randy Lanier, who is famous for two things. One, he owned Road Atlanta for many years, and two, probably one of the biggest marijuana smugglers in history.
Wow.
And he won the race with his teammate Don Whittington, who also went to prison.
Well, that's the ultimate 80s race car driver experience, I guess. He ticks all the boxes, didn't he?
He does. And Randy Lanier, actually, there's a brilliant interview with him on the Dinner with Racers podcast. Really, really interesting show. And what a lovely man with a lot of remorse and a really nice outlook on life. But he was a seriously good race car driver. And in that particular race in 1984, him and Don Whittington, they had a choice of not one, but two March Chevrolets to choose from. And they decided to go for the 83 rather than the 84 and went on to win the race against a pretty star-studded field. They beat Derek Bell and Al Holbert, so they knew how to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, there's no meeting for us next week. Our one big week actually is coming up next week before we head back for the championship. But we've already talked a little bit about Oran Park, but that will be a free circuit for everyone. So, if you're looking to, start iRacing and you like Oran Park, it's now a mall, not even a mall actually, too, but it's like a town. It's like a proper town with a few thousand people living in it now, and they had to demolish. Well, I say had to. They could have built around it, but they decided to demolish the race circuit, so not around anymore. And that'll be the next host for us in a couple of weeks' time. And just a reminder as well, because we looked at VRS earlier on with some fantastic setups and also some fantastic telemetry as well and data that you can collect with VRS. But also do check out Apex Racing Academy as well, because all the drivers in this series run the Apex Racing Academy setups, which are designed by Kevin Ellis Jr., Antoine Higelin, Peter Berryman, and loads of other World Championship drivers who have got podiums in the Porsche Sports Championship, and lots of different cars are covered for that. I think F3s, excitingly, of course, these cars and the Porsche Cup cars as well, which of course Apex Racing team have had so much success in recent times, and also the new Corvette and also the new LMP2 as well. So if you're racing on iRacing, you need a little bit more pace. Go to Apex Racing Academy and you can get either a bronze membership, which gets you access to just one car if you just want to focus on that, or you can get a silver membership and then get all the setups available. I think it's like something like £8 a month, I believe, for all the setups available. So certainly do go to Apex Racing Academy for that.
Absolutely, and it's just that's the amazing thing about iRacing is they just emulate every single detail of the car from the real world, and those little, there's a reason why Kyle Busch or Sebastian Vettel or whoever you want race driver needs a whole team of engineers to make the car go quicker. The sim is absolutely no different indeed. So yes, do check that out. I can be I'm sure tomorrow, of course, is Corvette Day, as I've now named it. 12 o'clock tomorrow UTC, we get the big update and I get the Corvette. I cannot wait. Sam, which new car and new track are you going to hop into first, do you think?
I will hop into the new PT personally. Long time awaited, and I've enjoyed the HPT. I also love the Cosworth kind of design on the wheel. The wheel in particular looks really nice. It's similar to the I think it's similar to the IndyCar wheel, but it's just like nice and bulky and quite a big wheel. So that'll be great, and the car will perform fantastic. Closed cockpit. Hopefully the visibility is all right. And no, that would be fantastic. So looking forward to this special week 14. And well, congrats to iRacing for delivering a very good build.
Absolutely. I'm very excited indeed. Well, that's all we've got time for tonight on Apex Racing TV. No reaction from our drivers this week, but in 2 weeks' time we go to Oran Park, and I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about with the drivers then. Thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast here on Apex Racing TV and the iRacing Esports Network. We hope you've enjoyed the races tonight, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Oran Park. Thanks for watching.